Hello, Stadio students. Welcome to this TLOF702 briefing on assignment 2 group work, and I will also give a very brief overview of the various assessments you need to engage in. Let's begin. Alright, so we know already that you have to do 10 short involvement tracker tasks, 10% each, or 10% in total, sorry, and they will run throughout the whole module. There will be two assignments, assignment 1 and 2. Assignment 1 worth 15% and assignment 2 worth 25%. And assignment 1 will be due in week 5 and assignment 2 will be due in week 9. There will be one online test. The online test will be due in week 11 at the end of the week, like we normally do over the Friday and the Saturday, and there will be a test window of 24 hours again. At the end, there will be one electronic portfolio of evidence consisting of a series of 3 ALO lessons, FET appropriate lessons, and they will have to be submitted via ECI, and you will be given more clarity as we go closer to that project. But for now, suffice it to say that the POE, or portfolio of evidence, will focus on career and study choices, and it will be worth 30% of your final mark for the module, and it's due in week 13. Right, just before we get into assignment 2, just a brief reminder, assignment 1 is your individual video exposition of a FET study skill. And there's a template that you can download. It was uploaded for you in week 3, if I remember correctly already, and you can download the template after creating your video clip, and on the template you insert your URL or video link to your YouTube video that you've placed on your YouTube channel, and then I follow that link to watch you do your exposition, a maximum of 6 minutes. And yeah, then I get back to your assignment, your script. I look at your script, and I also look at your diagram that you attached on that template with your script, and then that is how I will assess that project. You can also see ECI, especially in week 1, or even in the introduction lecture right at the top. There are a number of resources to assist you with that assignment. So please don't forget, Saturday, 5 September is your due date for handing that in. Right, so let's look at assignment 2. I'm calling it your PBL, project-based learning group work. And we know that when we do project-based learning, it's often around a very specific problem. They say ill-defined problem, normally from the side of the teacher or lecturer, me in this case. I do think I have defined it somewhat for you, definitely enough for you to get going, but there's also room for your own creativity. So just let's begin at the end, so to speak. We can say the group work is due in week 9. You definitely have to target this, and your target date for starting this assignment 2 of yours with your group is 1st of September. And then obviously you will have till the Saturday, the 3rd of October, which is the final date to hand this in. Yeah, so definitely I think with that I'm saying it's very important to remember that this is a process. So target the 1st September to begin your assignment 2, and then actually create your own little target dates, 3 or 4, as the process goes. I have a few suggestions about that later on in this presentation. Right, so we are calling this a problem-solving project report. So ultimately, the product of your learning process that you will run is your project report. And the report obviously is to share your learning, demonstrate your understanding. It is worth 25% of your final mark. So for starters, I think you can go and read Van Heerden Pieterse, page 199, and there's pretty good, clear and concise guidance there for you for how a project report should look and can be created. More information on assignment 2 group work will be shared with you during the live lectures. I think as we move forward, I will give an opportunity in the live lecture for you to ask some questions if you need to. But other than that, I think you should actually look to this briefing and to the reading in Van Heerden Pieterse to guide you. Right. So most important, that is the starting point. We are going to engage with this problem. So it's up to you to analyze and understand the meaning of this challenge. So you will have to put some meat on the bones for this one. How can life orientation teachers facilitate and mediate the healthy and effective engagement of FET learners with career and study choices? How can life orientation teachers facilitate and mediate the healthy and effective engagement of FET learners with career and study choices? Right, so this is really about you ultimately giving advice to FET teachers about how this can be done. So for this assignment, you'll be expected to work in a small group of 3 or 4 participants. I've already alluded to, you can actually go back to your previous group that you've already created, or you might want to actually join a new group. It's up to you. I will create a new opportunity for you to sign on ECI. In week 5, probably, I will make available that task, and it will also be your involvement tracker for that week. Right. The group may not exceed 4 participants. That's important. You will have to sign on and join the ECI page, as I've said, and it's called actually the group selection activity. So please be advised that if a student failed to join a group, they will unfortunately not be able to make a submission of this assignment. So it's really important that you become proactive in contacting your group members. It's really up to every individual to make sure that they make contact with your group. And obviously, you can't leave this too late. So I'm saying, please target the 1st of September, or maybe that week of the 1st to the 5th of September, to already get going, contacting your group, organizing your various checkpoints of this project. Right, then it's also, I thought it's very important to just share with you at this point, the group will have to formulate their own operational version of the research question, okay, in order to investigate this problem. So there's my 2 suggestions, maybe something like, how was making a decision about career and further study for you, or maybe more grammatically correct, how did you experience making decisions about career and further study? So those right at the bottom there, 2 different options, and this will basically be the question that you pose to each other. So how does that work? Let's take a closer look at each part of this project. The project report is made up of 3 parts. Okay, part A will consist of an introduction, right, and a summary of the report. So you will write a summary of all the aspects of the report. I will give you some ideas about that in the next slide. And you will also share your own developed aims and objectives based on the problem. So you will have to think, what is the aim of this exercise? What do we want to achieve as a little group? So I've already shared that basically in terms of assessment and design of this task, one of those definitely is to be able to give clear, concise, good advice to life orientation teachers about how to address the problem at the end of it. Because that is how project-based learning works, right? We want to, in a way, solve the problem, or actually give advice about how this problem could be solved by a life orientation teacher in the FET phase. Right, part B is a very interesting part for this assignment, and When we get to some lecturing, I'll be sharing some very interesting ideas and articles with you around this. But for now, suffice it to say that Part B will be about the data collection and analysis, and also conclusions drawn from the data. So Part B is all about the data, discussing the data. Now, where will this data come from? So this project is designed in such a way that you guys will actually be the research participants and actually also the researchers. So you will collect the data from each other. So it's really about how the members of your group have experienced making a career and study decision, or as per how the CAPS calls it, career and study choices. All right, Part C will be your focused literature review. I'm calling it a focused literature review because it can't be too expansive. Of course, space doesn't permit, and at this level, we're not looking at that to be too extensive, but I do want to see some solid literature review, at least 5 sources. Basically, we've already given you 2 in the form of your prescribed text, and you can add 3 articles, websites. The world's your oyster as always. So it's a focused literature review that you're going to share some theory and concepts and ideas there. And of course, in Part C, since it's the last part, you're going to also have to write conclusions and recommendations about the given problem. Right. Of course, if we go back to Part A, in the summary of the report, you will actually report on all these aspects very briefly in a short paragraph of more or less 100 words should do it. All right. So I will definitely, if you, even while you're watching this, or even before you watch this, or maybe directly after you've watched this video, go to Van Heerden Pieterse page 199 and 201 for more elaboration on the process of creating a problem-solving project report. It's what Van Heerden Pieterse calls it. All right, just 1 or 2 items in general before we look at each of those parts, part A, B, and C. In general, each member of the team may work individually on the separate parts. However, you must be advised that the assignment is one single report. So between the 3 or 4 of you, you will generate one report, and as such should go here in such a way that all 3 parts inform the overall report and speaks to the given problem statement. All right, pretty much very similar to your previous group work. Although 3 people work on it, there must be conversation, discussion, and we've taken a look at the idea of dialogue. And so there must be dialogue about this between the group members. That is also one of the keys, I would say, to do this effectively. All 3 parts should be discussed and co-designed by all members of the team. One team member, we can call him or her the leading and corresponding author maybe, will hand in the assignment on behalf of the team. So although all 3 of you will have the ability to upload it, I would actually say the person that does the final edit can do the uploading for the team and then let the rest of the team know that upload has happened. And of course, you'll be able to check that on ECI for yourself because you will also, every team member will have access. A TLOF702 template will be made available on ECI for download. So I think this I will share around week 7, but please get going. As per your Van Heerden Pieterse input there, you can start creating it. And of course, we always use MS Word for this, which everybody is pretty familiar with. So you can start typing up your report in MS Word. All members of the team will be able to upload, but assignment need only be uploaded once. So I think it's important there. Only one upload is fine. And it will show against all the group members by that point where we've created the groups. All members of the team must be listed on the cover of the assignment. Like per your previous group work, on the template there will be a space next to section A, B, and C where you can put your names. And that is actually basically your acknowledgement of your contribution, of each individual contribution to the bigger assignment. And of course, all team members will be awarded the same mark. Right, so here's some ideas to hopefully inspire your problem solving and report writing. So, as I've said, the report is actually a product of a larger process. And so as you generate the report, you also go through this process. A closer look at part A. So introducing the problem and some perspectives on it. That is what you need to do in part A. And I'm pretty sure you'll find some interesting literature and research on that. The making of career decisions in South Africa, the particular South African challenges. Of course, we can once again refer to the impact of the coronavirus, if you like. Although maybe, yeah, just be careful to not do too much of that, because there's so much out there, and that's not really the focus at this point. But it will most definitely have an influence on the job market, so we can definitely refer to that if you can find some interesting research on that. You must provide some clear and specific aims and objectives for the project, and you also provide a summarized overview of the project and its findings. Okay, so that's very important part in part A. I would say the aims, obviously, is the broader aims, and I've already shared one with you, which is basically to be able to give some solid advice to life orientation teachers about how they can approach this CAPS topic, and also how this process should be approached. And then I've shared there with you, I'm going to just briefly go through them, and you can pause the slide at this point if you want to scribble some of those down. I think they're quite useful. Maybe if you don't want to use the phrasing, you can just use that idea. And this is basically how you will structure your summary, but will also be some interesting sentence starters that you can use throughout your assignment. So you might start with something like, in this project, our main aim was to investigate. Specifically, our first objective was to. Our second objective was to also. The method we used to collect data about the experiences of the group members was, and then you unpack that. Our group experience of engaging in career and study decisions is. So that's obviously alluding to the general theme that you might pick up on there, on some of the challenges maybe. We have found that, right, that's the findings. According to the literature we reviewed, it is seen as best practice too. So what would be best practice in terms for life orientation teachers in terms of this topic? We have reached our main aim of, based on our experience and research of the literature, we can now advise that. All right, so that should give you quite a few ways of beginning your paragraphs and your sentences in the various sections, but most definitely also it gives you a sense of how you can put together your overview in part A. Right, so now let's take a much closer look at part B. Part B, I would say, is really the backbone of this assignment, a very big focus of it. So in part, the focus is on the experience of making career and study decisions of each group member, and sharing the challenges, successes, and strategies that worked for each member of the group. All right. So in part, the focus is on the experience. And I'm saying in part because the other part would also be, obviously, to speak about how learners can be facilitated. But in part B, which is the data collection part, it's really about speaking to your fellow group members and asking them the research question. basically asking them about how they experienced making a career and study decision. Because at this point, and especially once again, I think as PGCE students, you have quite a bit of experience about this already. You have made career and study decisions. So in your process, what was your sense of the challenges you've experienced? Maybe you came up with some pretty useful strategies. And obviously the idea is to learn from that and see how one can assist in terms of the learner's process. Okay. So the idea is to collect data from each group member and build on these topics and themes. So when I say data, I'm mostly referring here, I think qualitative data would definitely be the correct way to go. The collection of some qualitative data. In other words, interview or maybe written answers to a specific question. But certainly you can survey it as well. If I'm going to just leave that open-ended as a preference for you, but definitely some qualitative data will be most helpful in terms of this question. And of course, it's about finding helpful ideas and or concepts to solve and address the given problem. Okay, so you are asking your group members about their experience and how they have solved their own career and study challenges. But then in that process, you're also looking to answer the overall project question, which is how can life orientation teachers facilitate and mediate the healthy and effective engagement of FET learners with career and study choices? Okay, so the identified challenges, advice and solutions will come from your own first-hand experiences dealing with career and study choices, and also from reviewing what the literature and the theory says about engaging in career and study choices and the process and principles involved. Right, so that at the bottom there, that is really the meat in a nutshell, what this assignment is about. Okay, so I hope that is pretty clear. Then, of course, one very important proviso pertaining to Part B, which is the data collection. Only members of your TLOF student group may be part of the data collection process. So if you're 3 in the group, you're going to speak to the 3 different people in the group. If you're 4 in the group, then you will speak to those 4 people. In other words, your group members themselves will provide the data by sharing the experiences they have had with making a career and study decision. All right, so very important to note that no learners may be interviewed for this assignment. So at this point, when you are doing a PGCE, you're not at honors level yet, you're not at master's level yet, and you don't have ethical clearance. Okay, so leave the learners, in terms of the data collection, you are going to leave the learners out of this and just have a conversation with your fellow students, which are adults at this point and are willing and able to speak for themselves. Of course, when one really goes into your honors course and you start doing, let's call it, for lack of a better term, real research, then you will have to have ethical clearance, and of course you need permission of the parents. And so for this assignment, that's outside the scope of this assignment. So please don't do that. It'll just waste your time and create all sorts of challenges. But actually talking and collecting data from your fellow students as adults, just in your small little group, that is not a problem. All right. In this way, the members of your group will be both the researchers and the research participants. Sometimes we refer to this as participant researchers, especially when we look into action research. Before, I've also spoken in some of our previous lectures about the interesting ideas around action research. So I wouldn't say this is an action research per se, but really I'm borrowing that term for our assignment, just to introduce you to that. But certainly also interesting to go and read about action research and in teaching specifically. As I've said before, it's often referred to in the context of a professional teacher development. A possible strategy to accomplish this might be to designate or task one of the group members to collect all the responses from the other members. So maybe you appoint a data collector, maybe you design one question together, or a couple of questions, or a questionnaire, if you will, and you all type out some answers and you send it to this one specific person in your group. Other possible ways of data collection from group members could be voice notes. So maybe you set a couple of questions and you ask via WhatsApp. You can send each other voice notes, and you take those voice notes and you take your answers to the various questions from there. Of course, written responses sent to one group member, that seem to be a preferred method. Very simple, very effective. So yeah, don't shy away from that. Then maybe if you want to get a little bit more fancy, you can go into a collaborative video conversation using a platform like Zoom, or maybe your WhatsApp video call, or even Google Teams. And you can have somebody take notes on your conversation that you have there. Doesn't have to be too long. I would say 20-30 minutes should be more than enough material, as long as every group member gets the opportunity to respond to whatever question it is that you guys have designed, your operational version of your question. Of course, this is where you can actually be quite creative in how you collect the data. Right, let's take a closer look at part C then, the last part. Okay, and here's where you are doing a focused small-scale literature review or search. I'm saying at least 5 sources. That's at the very least. I would say for this assignment, if you go past 10, actually you are actually stretching it for too long. But 5 sources, your 2 prescribed sources plus another 3 of your own. Of course, you select those. You won't only look at 5. You will do your search and you'll find the most useful 5. So when I'm saying 5 is the 5 that you end up using, of course. This is where you share the challenges and advice to the given problem, right? Or question. You can share information you found in books, articles, or other reliable sources. You can share the challenges and solutions offered by the literature and or relevant theories. So there's a couple of relevant theories, approaches and principles in NULL that you can look at. And of course, your own group experience of making decisions about career and further study. So here is where you can actually, in part C, you will draw on the data you collected in part B. Since you guys are adult learners and you've already been through this process a couple of times, and we know it's ongoing, it's never basically done, you can then share your advice in terms of your own life experience. And of course, it will be great if you can link it to some of the literature and the principles in literature and the concepts in the literature at this point. Right. So basically in part C, you offer advice to FET life orientation teachers about engaging FET learners in healthy, effective choices about career and further study. Right, and you will maybe speak to the process of that again, maybe the steps, and there's some really good theory around the process of making career decisions, or maybe just the process of decision making. So of course this also points to the fact that you have to read ahead. Just look at that reading pacer for your unit 6. You will find lots of good information that you can engage with prior to us actually getting to lecturing that in week 9, beginning in week 9. All right. Okay. Just a couple of ideas about managing this. You've already done so successfully, most of the groups in the first semester. So I might share with you here that I'm a little bit less worried, but we know always group work, you have to really plan it carefully and execute it carefully to be successful. So there's my 5 big questions that I always ask with any project. This is also something you can use from here with your own learners, something you can do in class. You spend some time unpacking this in the groups and you ask them to give you answers on each of these questions by the end of their brainstorming session in one lesson or a period. So this is already a bit of a life orientation lesson for you here on one slide. Right, so the first question they need to answer, or that in this case you need to answer, is what do we need to do? So you need a list of specific steps and tasks. Now you need to analyze the assignment and break it down into its component parts. Who does what? All right, so obviously the purpose of that first question is to assign certain tasks to certain group members. And I've already done this a little bit for you. You can just look at part A, B, and C. That will give you a sense of what needs to be done. And, that would broadly consist of a literature review, the collection of data, the experiences from the other group members. And I've already taken the liberty of giving you a bit of a date there, a target date, because I think if you're not going to be at this point collecting the data by the 12th of September, then actually when it comes to final editing, you might start running out of time and feel a bit of pressure. So of course we want to mitigate and manage that pressure proactively, so you don't have to be too stressed about it. So basically the more proactive you can be with this, the less stress you will feel in the end. Okay, but we know this. I'm just pointing this out to you again. So target Saturday 12th of September, maybe for data collection from your other group members. It doesn't have to be that date. I'm just giving you something to aim at there. Analysis of data collected obviously can happen only after it's been collected. Brainstorming about recommendations to be made to the FET teachers, and maybe if all the group members does the reading here, then after engaging with the data collection process, then that'll be quite useful to get input from all group members. And then the final curation and editing of the report also needs to happen. And then, of course, handing in. So when are we doing this? So a hint, very important, I think part of your success recipe for this assignment, list of 3 to 4 target dates or milestones that you discuss with your group before the actual target date of submission. All right, so the project must begin on the week of the 1st to the 5th of September. So you really have to make contact with your group members in that week. For us, it will be a week 5. So of course, I will do my bit on ECI and make that group self-selection task available to you and create a forum where you can introduce yourself again and some of your ideas. But ultimately, this is up to you to make contact with your group. Right, and then of course via ECI you can organize the first meeting of the group and then run your process from there. The final submission date, I would say, is the 3rd of October on the Saturday, 12 o'clock. So please stick to that date because after that we know that we have the test coming and we need to start going on the portfolio, individual portfolio at that point. So of course there's no real space to go beyond that point. The 3rd of October is on the Saturday. Then how are we doing this? How will we ensure success? I've already shared some of the success recipe here with you, but also important, 2 or 3 simple rules of conduct, and how will we support each other so all can be successful. And I think it's all in that CARE principle, the communication, authenticity, respect, and empathy. So if you've had a particular busy week and you couldn't get to something, just let your group members know, lean on them for support. I think if Corona has taught us anything, I think it's really taught us in terms of care and support for one another. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys will do that. And I've had some some of the students sharing some pretty good stories already about this kind of thing happening and group members working together, and the feedback was really, really positive on that. So I'm looking forward to another excellent engagement around this assignment. Why are we doing this? We can have a whole host and a list of reasons, I suppose, but yeah, do yourself a favor and think of this assignment and, you know, reflect on this assignment in terms of the SOCWA critical cross-field and developmental outcomes. They are there under week 2, already available for you. So yeah, if you haven't downloaded those yet, please click on it, download, and take a look at those critical cross-field and the developmental outcomes, and think about how project-based learning and specifically group work facilitates much of what is asked there in all sorts of ways. So it'll also give you a sense of the kind of skills you should be working on and developing in this assignment. All right. Okay, so I think this is the end of the briefing. It hasn't been too long. So as a last request, please download and use the TLOF group X. So of course, once you've signed onto a group, you'll have a group number 1, 2, 3, group assignment 2 template. It's a MS Word template available on ECI page to complete this assignment. And like I said, you can look out for that around week 7. That will come your way, maybe a little bit sooner if I can. And then also, very important, most of you have done this, but there was a couple of groups that didn't quite follow my request there. As a last request, please replace the word template, right, in the naming protocol. You can see the naming protocol there underlined with the initials and surnames of the group members. So yeah, just list your group members there as part of your title. Obviously not the full name, there's no space for that, but certainly the you will do the full names on the front cover next to section A, B, or C. But in your naming protocol, you can say TLOF group, for argument's sake, 3, assignment 2, and then you just delete the part that says template and you just list your initials and surnames there. Okay. All right, so hopefully this briefing will get you going and be a support for you. And of course, you are most welcome to send questions my way about the assignment, or you can ask the questions in our live lectures as they come up. All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. See you soon.